Alright, so first things first, yeah. I was meant to. I made a video yesterday. Oh my god, every single video I made yesterday, I haven't posted any. From the gym video to the video of me in the living room here on the couch. But the second video was meant to be me dissecting Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. But I couldn't because I thought I was recording, but my phone was dead. So yeah. And I just spoke about it, but my phone was dead, so I ain't about to talk about it no more. But then I was going to talk about it now, but I flipped the coin, and the coin told me not to talk about it, which is probably not smart. But then again, if you are someone that likes to make a whole lot of decisions and you get overwhelmed with making decisions, just flip a coin. That's what I do. Yeah. But sometimes I don't 100% go with the decisions of my coin because some other time or when I'm less busy, I'm gonna make a video talking about trouble with geniuses, a section in Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. Also, flipping a coin. So I flip a coin to make decisions. Now, these are the pros and the cons. The pros helps me make decisions a whole lot faster. I don't waste time, and I like to make decisions fast because I have so many things going on in my head. I get overwhelmed with so many thoughts, so it helps me to section my thoughts and make decisions. Now, when I flip a coin and if it gives me a decision and I find myself not wanting to go with that decision, then I go with the other decision. So sometimes if I flip a coin, and like an illustration is with the whole Malcolm Gladwell thingy. So I flipped the coin and he told me not to make the video. Obviously, he didn't literally tell me, just heads and tails, heads do it, tails don't do it. So tails said I shouldn't do it, but now I felt like I should do it, so I'm gonna do it. So in as much as I might necessarily not get my desired outcome, it helps me to narrow down the outcome that I feel might be suitable to me. So in a way, it still helps me, even if it tells me the opposite of what I need to do, because it helps me to realize what I want to do and what I do not want to do, or it fits my, what's the word I'm looking for? It fits my thought process, or it validates what I want. It validates my opinion on something. So it helps a lot. Not saying you should do it, but I flip a coin, and since I've started flipping coins, I've been making decisions a whole lot faster. If I want to hit something, I just pick two things, flip, whatever, get. So I make decisions with food faster, even with business, which is scary. But like I said, I still rationalize the decisions. Not every time, but most of the time. Now, why am I recording this video? Try to remember. I forget things a lot. I hope this is not a sign of dementia. And if it is early stage of dementia, well, it is what it is. Right. So yesterday's video, which I will be posting today, and I'll be posting this also today, and a whole lot of other videos, was me talking about girls. So back to the conversation. So here's the catch up. So the first girl I added on Instagram last night, but she hasn't accepted. I think. Let me check. Yeah, she hasn't accepted. Also, the second girl I texted last night, she's replied. She replied, and I texted mid morning around 12 a.m., but she hasn't replied. Then the third girl, I can't text her or call her because she doesn't use WhatsApp, and my phone network provider is not providing me anymore because I know this is very heartbreaking. And I'm a pretty nigga, but I'm broke. Yeah, I'm broke. Like broke. Like I'm brokey. In the words of Travis Scott. Not Travis Scott, that's Young Talk. Yeah, I'm broke. So I can't text her, so she's out of the equation. But there was I found a new girl today, like a germ. Is it not a germ? No, not like GERM, but like a gem, GEM or JEM. I think it's GEM. So I found a gem today, so that's pretty cool. So she's gonna join the equation. Probably should text her now. If I don't text her now, I'm going to forget. So let me just text her now. I would like text her. Let's see. I'm actually girls they like to write some. So I'm very cheesy. I'm a very cheesy person. Let's see. So she was wearing a white top and blue jeans. Her hair was afro. Alright, so what I'm texting now. I'm starting with loved your outfit. The afro made your beauty pop. Tell me, do you like terrorizing the city with your beauty? I'm gonna say face. Love the outfit. The afro made your face pop. Love your outfit. The afro, because our hairstyle is an afro, but it's not a natural hair though. But it's an afro. So love your outfit. The afro made your face pop. Tell me, do you like terrorizing the city with your beauty? I'll send it. Alright. Right, so I was talking to my flatmate here and I was telling about my software. Because to be honest, when I started the whole project of the software, I was optimistic about it. But then again, I felt like I might be overreaching. Sometimes I feel like I'm overreaching. Because I feel like I'm overreaching doesn't mean I'll never try doing it. Don't get me wrong. I feel like I'm overreaching, but I will still do it because my level of grandiosity is next level. Anyways, the software works perfectly well, 100%, smoothly, without any like perfection, and I'm in love with my own software. Then I used the reference of this is the op to my Niklaus. If you've seen the originals, you probably will get that. Yeah. So now I have to go back to work because I've said what I need to say. You know what? I talked about the whole outliers. I still need to take the book for the sake of the status. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Trouble with geniuses. Spoke about geniuses. Level of IQ is directly proportional to your level of success. That's one. At a threshold of IQ, shout out to my flatmate for using the word threshold that's stuck in my head. So at the threshold of IQ, I'm shouting out to my flatmate a lot. He's a pretty cool dude. So at the threshold of IQ, it becomes insignificant to your level of success. So once your IQ gets to a certain threshold, it doesn't matter to your level of success. And it did use basketball as an illustration. So for you to be a professional basketballer, you've got to be at least 6 feet. But for you to be a proper basketballer, you've got to be at least 6'3". From 6'3" and above, the significance of height to your abilities as a basketballer becomes insignificant. So you have a basketballer that is 6'6" and a basketballer that is 6'8". The 2 inches doesn't really matter when it comes to the level of prowess or talent. Now, I made mention of an English psychologist that ran an experiment, and he came up with the proposal that your level of IQ is directly related to your level of success. And then he also made reference, by Malcolm Gladwell made reference to an American psychologist too in California, I think, sampled a couple of students or young adults with high IQs, and then he called them the termites, which is kind of a weird name. But he called them the termites, and apparently he had high hopes for his termites to do very great things. But over time, they weren't as great as he expected them to be. They didn't deliver as much success as he had hoped for. And this was what came into the play of analytical intelligence and practical intelligence. Now, rather than defining analytical intelligence and practical intelligence, he used Chris Langan and Robert Oppenheimer to illustrate the difference between analytical intelligence and practical intelligence. So analytical intelligence is what comes with having a high IQ, which is just you having good analytical skills like being able to solve maths and physics and follow maths, or being good in chemistry, biology, science, business, and whatnot. And then practical intelligence is you having good social skills, good human relation, and being able to interact with people. So I use seduction because having good human relationship skills and whatnot, everything comes down to a form of seduction. So when I say seduction, seduction doesn't have to be sexual. Matter of fact, seduction and being sexual being sexual is seduction, but the real form of seduction as sex as the last part, because if you're trying to really, really seduce a person, sex is the last thing that comes into play. When you try to seduce somebody and make them like hooked and just be able to do your bidding, sex is the last thing that you're trying to engage with them, or is the last thing that even comes to your mind. So, according to Malcolm, Chris Langan has a lot of analytical intelligence, because apparently the dude has an IQ of 195 and Einstein has an IQ of 150. Then it's because I'm trying to not say something that I said yesterday now. I've lost my train of thought. So I have to just say it. Then yesterday I said I have an IQ of 145. So see, my train of thought is back. This is one thing I've realized as a human being, and this comes into play with what Robert Greene says, that I think it's called the zeitgeist. It's the zeitgeist. I'll talk about that in some other video. But yeah, never restrict yourself from experiencing the zeitgeist, or else you not be in a state of flow. You just be going in a haphazard manner. So Chris Langan went to high school. During his phase in high school, he got his scholarship into two different universities: University of Chicago, and Reed University. So he went to Reed University. When he got to Reed University, he met some other students, but he couldn't incorporate into their society and into their way of life because they were from two different worlds. So most of the students in Reed universities were on scholarship, so they were like from the middle class and from the upper class, mostly from New York, Manhattan, etc. And he was from some town, can't remember, California, but I can't remember, to be honest. But he was from some town, and he was poor because his mother had 4 kids that belonged to 4 different men. Crazy. So came up poor. He was practically the breadwinner, and he was there on scholarship. So his whole ideology and the way he came up was different from the way those kids came up. I'm going to relate it to something else that I said, but one step at a time. Now, Chris was not able to adapt into their society because he did not even understand their society. And the thing about human society is, once you come into a play with a society and you're unable to adapt, people in the society will never really try to walk you through the process of you adapting, because they just expect you to understand how to adapt, which was what affected Chris. So he couldn't adapt because there was really nobody to show him how to adapt. And in as much as humans are social creatures, capitalism has made humans individualistic in a way that most people really just care about themselves. People don't really care about what you're going through or your struggles. So Chris wasn't able to adapt, and because he wasn't able to adapt, and he had his own childhood trauma of not having good parental figures, he couldn't express himself and seek for help. And because he couldn't do that, he had poor relationship with his lecturers. So what came into play was he was unable to renew his scholarship because his mother was a single mother. She was busy and she was not really. I mean, I'm not judging her, but from a woman that has 4 kids with 4 different men, I am not judging her because I think 2 or 3 of those men died, so it wasn't her fault. But in a way, because if I'm trying to be as honest as possible, and if we are being honest, for a woman not to be able to sign her son's scholarship, I mean, it's just a signature. For you to forget to put a signature on a paper says a lot about who you are. If we are being honest, it is a piece of paper and a signature. It's not that deep. So she forgot to sign the scholarship, and then he lost his scholarship. And even before then, he was having issues with his classes because he was trying to take care of 2 of his brothers. And because he couldn't take care of 2 of his brothers, he needed to get a part-time job. But because he couldn't properly communicate with his lecturer, the lecturer denied him from moving his class timetable from morning to noon because he needed to go to work in the morning. So he ended up losing his scholarship, got kicked out of university, and from there, his life went in a bearish market, went downhill. So that was Chris Langan. Life went downwards because of his poor communication skills and his poor practical intelligence. Then we have Robert Oppenheimer, a physicist, apparently a theoretical physicist that was also as intelligent as Chris, but went to Harvard, grew up in a nice, rich neighborhood. Chris grew up in a poor neighborhood. Robert came from a rich neighborhood. And then he was, because he grew in a rich neighborhood, he was able to get some upper class type of social skill. I'll talk about that more because Malcolm was able to relate it to how people from low class social, like people from low social class and high social class are different when it comes to social skill. Because when you come from a low class and when you come from a high class, people from high class have better social skills than people from low class, because people from low class, they don't really have the opportunity to get this skill, and primarily this skill comes from your nuclear family. So now, unlike Chris, Robert has high practical intelligence because he was able to get this from his immediate nuclear family. And although Robert had his own moments of villainy. Now, give me a second, I have to check if this is recording. Thank Jesus. Now, although Robert has his moments of villainy, which was trying to poison his lecturer because his lecturer was trying to force him to be an experimental physicist, and he was a theoretical physicist, and he was just kind of an asshole in some other ways. He has good practical intelligence, so although he was who he was able to talk his way out, negotiate his way out, and still relate properly with human style, even though when he does some things that were not proper, because of his good practical intelligence, was able to substitute for it and amend things. Now, I'm going to talk about a bit about the childhood briefly. So Robert, when he was a child, got an award to talk at the Institute of Physics. I can't remember, but yeah, Institute of Physics, and his parents put the knowledge of practical intelligence with him by taking him to different social gatherings and allowing him to express himself, even with adults and young adults like him. Then he was able to explore his human condition and his human nature with other humans through the wealth of his parents, because he was in a rich neighborhood. He was able to have access to the best education, and with the best education comes with best schools, and best schools put in the factor of social and practical intelligence into the curriculum most of the time. That's where we have school after clubs and having like just school clubs, having students interact with themselves and debate and debate and literature or literary teams and things like that. But unlike Chris Langdon that grew up in a poor neighborhood and went to poor schools, and apparently the funding of poor schools don't really have allowed for things like that. So he was more of a wallflower, and his social skills and practical skills were poor compared to Chris Langdon. And then spoke about how Robert got positions to work on the nuclear bomb. Yeah, I think so. He worked on some bomb, is that nuclear bomb or atomic bomb? And because of his good practical intelligence, he was able to talk properly to get them to put him on the project. He was able to talk to the people on the project, and he was such a loved person. And even though when it comes to human nature, he was more of a villain than Chris, because of his good practical intelligence, he was able to make up for it. Now, he now spoke about the social, economic, culture, and classes of individuals and how it affects their psyche when it comes to you having practical intelligence. So, apparently, practical intelligence is something that comes into you or in play from your childhood, and the primary giver of practical intelligence is your family. So if you have a family that doesn't care about you, or you grew up in a toxic family, or maybe your parents were separated, or your parents were always fighting, or just there's a form of toxicity, and I don't want to go into Adler's psychology or Freud's psychology, because then the video will just be too long and I have things to do. But yeah, if you have all these forms of childhood trauma, it affects your affinity to be able to be an individual with practical intelligence. And if you don't have proper practical intelligence, it restricts your ability to be successful. So he used an example of two children, child A and child B. Child A was from a poor class. I don't say poor because that might sound mean, but to be honest, I know this is 21st century and every human being is so sensitive right now to you using different words, but hopefully, honestly, I don't even want these videos to be for everybody. I just want these videos to be for people that vibe with my persona and they are not so sensitive to using normal English, common noun. It's just a common noun, it's not that deep. So I'm going to keep using words the way they are, and I'll just express myself freely. From time to time, I might apologize, but as time goes on, I will stop apologizing because deep down I don't really care. I'm just being honest to you. But yeah, so people from poor class, and so we have poor class, middle class, and rich class. Poor, low, middle, upper. So people from middle and upper, they have a higher chance of having more practical intelligence from people from poor and low class. Why? Because poor kids are usually neglected by their parents, have access to lower resources, and have access to not being able to socialize, because most times it's that they have a part-time job or their parents are not really there to take them to events like after school events or country clubs or things like that. So they don't grow the affinity for social skills, unlike middle and average class, whereby they have access to these resources. An example in Army was a child that was not doing properly in school. Then his parents, the school asked, the teacher specifically asked him to bring his mom to school. So while the teacher was talking to the mom that the child wasn't submitting his assignments, the mother didn't really see any big deal in it and felt like it was the duty of the teachers to just do everything and resolve every crisis that comes with the child's poor education and poor interaction with education. But unlike somebody from the middle and upper class, whereby if their child is not doing well in school, the parents don't even need to wait for the school to call them. They go to the school, make donations, start trying to get the child to participate in more things and get the teachers to realize that this is the child's weakness, and also there's a form of concern in parents from middle and upper class compared to parents in lower classes who are more neglectful. And neglect might not even necessarily come from lack of love. It might come from overwhelmed, lifestyle, having to go to work, to pay bills, they just have a different form of priority. And in one of my videos, but that was on Misfit Academy, I was talking about in marketing there is need, want, and demand. So as a human being, there are things that your primary need in life and they're classified as your needs. Your wants are still a form of privilege, but your needs are the basic things you need for your survival, which is your food, clothes, shelter, those three things that you need. Then we have something like protection, where everybody needs security in their life. But food, clothes, and shelter is the most important need every human strives to get. So people in poor classes, they are more inclined to look for food, money for food, because they have to eat, clothes, can't walk around naked, shelter, pay rent, pay bills, things like that. Whereas people in the upper and middle class, they have that in abundance, and because they have that in abundance, they have more free time to be inclined with the child, with the life of that child, which helps that child to have more practical intelligence compared to a child from lower class. And how does this now affect the society? So this affects the society in such cases that because of the lack of practical intelligence in kids from low class, they end up being what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say hooligans, but yeah, they end up being hooligans or criminals, just the bad. They just end up being the ones that do the negative things in the society compared to people from upper middle class. And that's why in most cases, poor people always remain poor and rich people get richer, because poor people never really get the affinity, not just even the access to these things, but they don't have the internal affinity to be able to survive in a world that is determined not by just your analytical abilities but also your practical abilities. Now, putting that into psychology, where we have Adler and Freud. I'll be talking about this extensively in another video, but I gotta bounce now. So yeah, shout out to whoever is watching this. I'm not using my mic, so I hope you can hear this. Yeah, wish me good luck, because I'm on a losing streak. I've been losing back to back. I win, I win, I just lose. Hold on. Open that app.